Uh, Yay. You're live. Great. So we're here again. Welcome, Dietmar, and to the rest of you guys as well. Good to see you guys all here. Uh, Dr. Dietmar Betz is a urologist in Germany, a member of Manifesto Core, and a guy who I've been having some really beneficial conversations with for quite some time now. So I'm really happy you're able to join us, Dietmar. And today we're going to be talking about integration of vision or integration of vision in practice. So taking something high up and far away from oneself that one wants to move towards. Normally we say we aim towards a star or and no, we kind of course correct along the way. And trying to bring that down to our everyday life. That's what we're going to be talking about. And before we get going, and Dietmar is going to be sharing about his own personal way of doing this, I'm going to just give a little bit of a introduction from Manifesto and the way we've been looking at this and the background and history, actually, of what we've been doing in Manifesto. So Manifesto started back in probably around 2016, 2017, really with me and conversations with other guys in my network. And it was really a reaction to what we saw as the crisis of masculinity in our society in the West at the moment. And right from the beginning, it was very clear that what we needed was a clear vision. So that's been a really, really big part of what we've been doing right from the beginning. And at this time of my life, personally, I was involved in all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff that was attracting me at that time. I think looking back, I would characterize myself as maybe a little bit of a playboy or something like that. A little bit not serious, not completely taking responsibility for myself and for others around me, but impressed with a lot of big and fancy ideas that I was reading and experiencing the big cities and traveling around and kind of all that kind of stuff. And a little bit of New Age, also some atheism, Friedrich Nietzsche, some Tantra stuff, and there are all kinds of weird and wonderful things all mixed together. And so we started off by organizing what we called men's research weekends, where we brought together guys from our network. We had about 35 guys for 2 different weekends, where we basically locked ourselves up together and we spoke about what does it mean to be a man, and how do we become better men as well. And that led us to writing a manifesto, which is what we put out online, and that's why we called Manifesto. And there was a whole lot of people who responded to this and thought it was fantastic and amazing, exciting. And so in 2017, we organized the first European men's gathering where we had 140 guys showing up from like 35, 40 different countries. And it was fantastic and amazing and life-changing. And during that event, and especially after that event, it kind of started hitting me the gravity and the size of that undertaking that I'd taken on and what we're trying to do, and the responsibility of actually how it could go well and how it also could go very, very bad. Because I realized creating a vision is one thing about talking about how great things can be, and if we're all just do this and this and this, then everything's going to be great. But actually integrating that is a mystery, and it's a secret somehow. It's as big and difficult as uniting heaven and earth together, man and God together somehow. That's actually what it is we're trying to do, right? And so as I was working in those early days and looking back on it now, I can see how there was kind of two different paths in front of me. And today I would clearly call those paths something like a path of pride and a path of humility. And I think back then I would have more seen it as the path to direct success, which was just building everything up on my own person and my own. I'm a strong personality. I have strong opinions, and kind of holding on to that. Or the path of humility, which was more something like a more long-term safe way or something like that. And I think that's, seeing that path, I probably have my own father, my biological father, to thank for that, because he's a very humble man. And I think I often saw his humility as weakness, but today I see it as the greatest gift that I've ever received, and the most masculine gift that I've ever received as well. And so in that prideful vision, it was me, Paul Robson, in the center, and everything was based on me. And in more humble vision, then I realized I still had a lot to learn, and I had to start a real spiritual journey and search myself to find answers that would probably continue for the rest of my life. and never be completely satisfied either. And the first thing I actually realized was that, my own biological brother, my relation with him living in Canada, I don't know where you are, Brian, my brother's in Toronto, but it wasn't in such a great state, my own relationship with my brother back then as well. So that was actually the kind of the place where I started, as I started ringing up my own biological brother once a month and trying to just listen to him instead of telling him all the things that he should be doing with his life. And so that's been a long path, and I'm not going to talk about that path tonight. Except to say that, it led me to finding Orthodox Christianity, which is the highest vision that I've found. But then integrating that into my own life is still a challenge every single day. And I find myself using more and more time to try and integrate that very high vision into my everyday living, into my relationship with my wife, and into my relationship with my children and stuff like that. And so it is bringing together, this disconnect, which is the very first thing that I started with in Manifesto as well. It was the disconnect between mind and body, between ideas and experience, between heaven and earth somehow, right? And so that's what we're still working on. That's what we're trying to still do to here in Manifesto, and try to really talk about it in open conversations with different guys. And talking about humility, it's only recently that we actually brought in humility as one of our central principles in Manifesto. And today it's actually the governing principle of all of our other work that we're doing in Manifesto is this humility. So I'm happy that we have some people that I look up to here today to have that conversation, and we'll be taking that and seeing what comes out of it, having some ideas, opening up to a couple of questions, and I expect we're going to use at the most an hour here, maybe 45 minutes, something like that. We have been having this conversation on Core for the last 6 weeks or so already. So it's an ongoing conversation, and it's really aimed at updating our principle, which is on the integration of vision, which is really what we're focused on doing on Manifesto Core every single day, is helping guys to create a vision, understand where it is that they want to go with their life, what it is that they want to attain, what kind of a man do they want to become, and then how to actually live that and take small steps. We don't believe in total transformation and all of a sudden. It's normally just a small little course correction and then small little steps to be bringing our lives more into alignment with those ideas every day that we can. So I really, I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I'm happy that Dietmar is going to take the ball up first and share with us a little bit of his experience and knowledge from his background as a doctor and from being on Core, and just being a man as well, that's been thinking a lot about how to be a man for a long time. Over to you, Dietmar.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you very much. Great to be here again. So let's go straight into medias res. The question, bringing together vision into your daily action. The first thing that I want to share is my personal approach for myself, and also dealing with other men and clients, is every single human being that wants to put purpose and meaning into its life comes across questions like, who am I and why am I here? What's my purpose? And, you have to deal with those questions. But the problem with these kind of questions is they don't really give you an idea how to create the answer, or how to find the answer to this when you keep asking yourself, who am I? And I've come across people telling me, well, I believe into some sort of soul contract. There's some higher power that I believe in. And the answer is just written somewhere out there in the greater field. And I just need to open all the channels that I have in order to be able to, at some point, receive the question. And the trouble with that is you can spend ages on waiting for the answer for this question to come. So I kept thinking about this, and I, for myself, thought, I don't want to be in this passive role, because if you just wait there, you don't know what's happening. I want to take action, and I think that's a masculine attitude. I want to create something. So I started dealing with this problem with just reformulating the question. I keep telling my clients, don't ask who you are, but think about who you want to be. So the first step is ask the question, who do I want to be in this life? And that's the easy step, because if you know who you want to be, then you can create the ideal of your personal behavior and the best version of yourself. So that's pretty easy. But then comes the question, well, if I have this overwhelming idea of this great structured guy that I want to be, how do I become this? And, you can get there, but this is when the hard work starts. But you can either spend ages waiting for the answer to come, or you can use the time, do some hard work, and you try and create the answer and get there yourselves. And we know there's scientific evidence of this. Our personality is about 50% genetics, but there's 50% of a white sheet of paper waiting for you to write your story of your life onto this part of your piece of paper. So there is a big chance of really developing into this guy that you want to be. And now when you agree to that and you say, well, I'm going to take the second step here, then my personal approach was, and that's what I talk about with other people as well, you have to accept the fact that you're not just the biological person, but you have to realize there are various aspects of your personality and you have to integrate them. And those 4 aspects that I talk about is the biological one, it's the psychological or mental one, it's the social life that you have, and it's your spiritual life as well. And the questions that come behind that is, who do I want to be physically? So what kind of shape do I want to be or develop? What's the way that I want, that I want to live? What's the food that I'm taking? All this kind of stuff. Then your mental state is, what's my behavioral patterns? How do I react? How do I interact with other people? What's driving me? What's the reason for that, for me being like this? Then we talk about social lives. Who are the people that I surround myself with? Are these guys really the guys I want to live with? Who's going to join me on my journey to become the best version of myself? And the 4th part is your spiritual life. So what do I believe in? Who do I follow? Do I have a mentor? Is there something that I really think is the most important part in my life that I want to succeed or want to fulfill? So once you agree to that, then the hard work starts, because you have to answer all those questions about yourself. And I can tell you from my personal experience, you will need help. You will not be able to go through all this by yourself, because sometimes it's hard to realize, once you see what you want to be and you realize where you are, that there is a massive gap between those 2 realities, and you have to overcome this. And first of all, you have to live with the fact that you're really far away from this. So you might need help, but there is help out there, and you can ask for help. And once you've realized who you are, you've made a major step, because you've never known yourself as good as you do at that very special point in your life. And then the next thing is, when you realize who you are and where you are with all these 4 aspects of your personality, you have to define where you want to be. So again, you go through the 4 aspects: your bio, your psycho, the social, and your spiritual life. And then you have to make a plan in order to find out who you want to be and what kind of attitude this person that you want to be would have. And here's the 3rd step. Once you've realized that, you have to make a plan of action. So you have to build routines that help you in all 4 aspects to develop into the person that you want to be. And here's something that's vital for me. It has to be small steps, but it has to be high frequency. And you have to put emotional loading to it, because you need to have a very positive emotion when you do this. You have to focus on the steps, but not on the aim, because when you focus on the aim, you won't be able to be happy with it, because it might take a long time to get there. But if you focus on the small steps, and you always have a very positive, rewarding emotional experience when you take the step on a daily basis, you will be able to be happy, and your neurobiological system will ask for more of this. So you will then really have a positive, rewarding reaction, and you can make this neurobiological system help yourself, because then the development will not be linear, but it'll be exponential. But you have to start with small steps on a high frequency. It's basically like brushing your teeth. You have to do it on a daily basis. And the other thing is, you have to bear in mind that time is an important player here as well. You can make time become your friend, but you can also make time become your enemy. Let me clarify this. If you take an example of a guy who, say, smokes only 3 cigarettes a day, and he says, well, it's not really harmful. It's only 3 per day. I have one in the morning, one after lunch, and one when I come home. Well, if you do that every day, it's 20 per week. And if you do that for a year, it's 1,040, I think, over a year. Now, science tells us if you smoke a cigarette, it'll reduce your lifespan of about 7 minutes. So when you do that, you keep going with 3 cigarettes per day, then after a year, you'll have lost 5 days of your life. And here comes the neurobiological system again. If you smoke 3 cigarettes per day, your system won't let you get away with it, because you will always have a positive emotion with the cigarette. You look forward to that, you take it, but you pay a high price. And if you do that for a year, at least after 6 months, you will be smoking 5 cigarettes a day. And then after that, because your system wants more and more, you will end up smoking a package a day. And that's when time is your enemy, because your neurobiological system responds, and the worsening factor will exponentially rise. On the other hand, if you take a guy who says, well, instead of smoking a cigarette, I do 10 push-ups. So whenever you feel you want to smoke, you sit down or you lay down, do 10 push-ups. That means you do 30 per day. That means you do 210 per week, and so on and so forth. Now, if you start doing that and you feel good afterwards because you've overcome this bad habit, your neurobiological system will again reward this with a positive feeling. So after a couple of weeks, you will feel like, well, 10 is pretty easy. So you will end up doing 50 push-ups per day, and so on and so forth. And then you can transfer this into various other actions. So key really is make time your friend, and be sure that it's not your enemy, and make sure that your neurobiological system is not overwhelmed with ideas that are just too much. If you want to change within a couple of days, there is no ever way to get there. But if you do it in very small steps and you have a positive emotional reward, then you will change. And importantly, I want to say that the idea of the ideal personality that you want to become can always be reframed. That's something that you have to go through your whole life. That's a lifelong process. But for me, it's vital to get started. Don't wait for the answer. Go ahead and create your personal answer. Make sure that every 3 months or every year you stop, you look back, and you say, well, all the experience that I've made in the last year, I will use it to make the next year an even better year. So basically, that's what I have to say to wrap it up. Take action if you want to change and you're looking for purpose and meaning in life. Don't wait for an answer to come out of the blue. Take action, create this. Got to know yourself. All the 4 integrations of your personality, but all the aspects have to be integrated, and develop the plan of action. Take small steps, high frequency, and a very positive emotional load. Mm-hmm. That's my personal experience that I've made, and I've made with clients as well. I've developed, a program which I call the Phoenix Protocol, in which I take guys who are interested in this through all those 4 aspects of their personality, and afterwards they all have a plan of action, but they can redevelop this frequently and go on further and further.
Mm-hmm. Are you offering that online as well, Dietmar, or is it more just
yes, yeah. It's in German at the moment. German. So the website is in German, but yeah, that's a
German
good idea.
speakers. Then we'll put the link in the description here so people can read more about it. There's quite a few things there that I thought we could follow up on, but the thing that really struck me the most that you said was really good small point that it's just proven again and again in my life. Small steps, high frequency,
Yeah.
and then the positive experience. And so the question that I was thinking of just in relation to that is just to try and understand, because you know a lot more about physiology than I do. Why is it that you use the example of push-ups, but also running, I was thinking about like, it's painful if you train hard, right? Or if you're actually destroying your muscles in your body. And so the immediate experience is often a negative one, especially when one starts. So there's like a hump to get over as well. But it is possible to start building that positive experience in time. But how does that work, and why is it how big is the hump? How can we make the hump smaller?
Yeah, well, it's got to do with the inner rewarding system. That's basically, we're structured pretty simple. What we need is we need love. We need somebody who's really close and who gives us security, and we need like adventurous experiences where we realize that in the beginning we think I can't make it, but then somebody will take us through, and afterwards we've got we made the experience. Well, you can get across the border, you will survive, and it feels great when you get there. And that's basically what happens when you realize you do 10 push-ups, because people can do that. It's not serious. When you start doing it, it hurts because you might only be able to do 3 in a row. But it's pretty easy because there are so many men doing it. You do it, it hurts, but afterwards you feel great. And then you say, well, I want this feeling again. And that's nothing. It needs you need to be convinced to do that, but you get a lot of help from the inner rewarding system, because you really get the feeling. The hormonal system, there's a firework, and what fires together wires together. So that's what you need to do. You need to really make sure that you get this emotional firework going, and after that you will always want to have this again.
Yeah, I remember, and as you're talking about the smoking as well, I was thinking about like just that habit. You're building like a very strong neurological pathway in your system that's getting strengthened. And so, and we're just people of habit, so we do the things that we're used to. And so that's why that high frequency, small steps thing really makes sense to me, as I've just seen. Like, I often have an idea and think, oh, that'll be easy. I can just go and do that. But then, this year, at the beginning of this year, I put away my smartphone, and now I just have a dumb phone, like this thing that can just send messages. And it's really, there's all kinds of things that it's impacted in my life. You think it's easy. It's not easy at all. Like, there's little habits that just become a part of who I am. Like that smartphone had grown into my palm, basically, right? And so it's like cutting off a piece of me when I get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The other thing that I was thinking of just for myself, especially when it comes to these kinds of physical goals, is that I need to have a short-term positive experience, but I also use a long-term goal and a story about myself that I repeat to other people, which on a 3-month basis often is the kind of one that works for me well, is when I sign up for a race like a half marathon, or I go for some kind of physical test. I know 3 months off in the future, that's what I'm training for. I'm trying doing it one year in the future. That's too far away from me. I can't actually connect to that on an everyday level. And a couple of weeks, obviously, you can't really make a big impact yet. But 3 months, you can. So I find like these, and that's what we work on core all the time, is quarterly goals. It's like it's a time period where we can actually achieve more than what we think, and we can be quite impressed by like what can actually happen just by doing a small little action. If you do push-ups every single day for 3 months, you're gonna triple your strength, basically, right? Which is
one thing about this is, if you have an aim after 3 months, for example, what helps is if you then realize how am I going to celebrate this. And if you have a celebration topic, you will beforehand every now and then sit down and visualize. And this visualization is another positive experience. That's another way to activate the neurobiological system. So as you say, when you start a training program for a half marathon, it's those daily habits, but it's also the idea of passing the line where you go through and then you've done it, and you will feel great because that's the thing you've been working for. But you do visualize this, and you go through those emotional experiences, beforehand in order to keep yourself going. That's pretty much the same, but it's just, that's the cognitive solution there when you say, well, I know what's going to happen and I'm looking forward to it, and I make myself just go for it. But you need the emotional load, otherwise you're not going to get there.
Yeah.
If it's only mentally driven, then it's hard.
Yeah. No, I mean, I really believe like we are beings of stories. Like we need stories. We create meaning in our life through stories, and it's really important to be aware of what kind of story we're creating. Because it might just be a tragedy if we're not, or a comedy or something like that if we're not actually aware of it, right? So we need to think about and consciously yeah, and because otherwise it's or what normally happens, it's just like it's the mainstream stories of the culture which are influencing us, which for most men right now, it's not great stories that are being told about men, right? So it's hard to find good role models or men to look up to and be inspired by, unless you're consciously decided to be with a group of men who want to do that with each other. And so that's when I meet with my core group every single week. I'm just like, I just really experience men facing enormous odds in their lives and standing firm and just getting up in that 5 o'clock in the morning, doing the things they need to do. And that also really just lifts me. I really like what you said in the beginning about, you can't do it by yourself. You can't do it. We are this social. I don't know if medicine, the medical science is able to explain that completely yet, but it's at least confirmed that it's true, right? That we are looking for you said like, what really you're just looking for is someone to be there with us through challenges and that we can connect with and yeah.
That's very important, because I think, that's got to do with the social development. But many men, they're looking for a mentor, but they don't have one. They don't find one. In my generation, where 50% of the fathers left their family, many young men or men in my age don't have this role model of the father around them. And there are you can look for other people, but if you don't find a mentor, a men's group is something that can really help, because you will find various aspects in various men, and you will always find somebody in the group who's the right one for you to follow in this special situation. So I really believe that men need other men to really develop into the best version of themselves. This is one of the stories behind the sentence that I said when I said that I meant when I said, you can't do it alone, you need help. You might need somebody talking you through your psychological aspects when you, for example, go for therapy. You have a very close friend who's very knowledgeable, something like that, but you also need a peer group. You need other men to join you on the journey.
And there's something specific that we get from male friends as well. I also do an Orthodox podcast called As Iron Sharpens Iron, and together with a guy called Father Hans and Father Michael. And it's really the most beautiful point, which I think is far more relevant than just for Christian guys as well, is this understanding that there's a maternal love and there's a paternal love.
Yeah.
And paternal love is different from maternal love. And we need it. And we can only get it from men. It has to be from other guys. And we can do it for each other as brothers as well. The best place to get it, of course, is from your biological father. And it's not the one who's like, always there and always looking forward to you. It's setting standards, and it's creating boundaries, and it's encouraging you to grow in that, seeing your ability, believing in you, trusting in you that you can actually, grow and learn and develop. And that's what we can do for each other as men. It includes a challenge as well. It's about having expectations to each other. And when you see your friend going off the rails and doing something that's stupid and tearing his life apart, then you say it to him, even though he might get offended, right? It's not the kind of love that just accepts things just exactly the way they are. Oh, you're just beautiful and amazing and loving. It's great. I can see my 3-year-old, he needs that from his mom. But I don't do that for him. I have expectations to him, and that's a good thing, I think, and sometimes I force him to do stuff, against his will, because he does stupid things sometimes, he'll want to like hit his little brother in the head with a knife or something like that, right? So I have to discipline him sometimes.
Yeah.
And we all do that as well. So we need other men around us who are wiser in different areas, and that can nudge us on the way. Okay. One more thing, Dietmar, that you touched on, and maybe I'll bring in Alex here. Let's see if you want to say something first. Maybe we'll ask Alex if he wants to say anything about it. But you said this thing about receiving a purpose and creating a purpose, and you had that distinction. You said, and I definitely believe, there's so many men who are sitting around waiting to be discovered or something like that, and just like not launching their lives. And not taking action, maybe because they don't know how to do it, or their mom has told them they're so fantastic and beautiful and going to achieve so much in their life that they've, whatever it is, that they're not actually taking action. And so I really believe that as well. But there is something about meeting a man who has received, a divine purpose of some kind as well. So I don't know, what can we say about that? And is there more to add to that, or maybe it's outside of the scope of this conversation?
Alex, you want to go first? Otherwise, I'll jump in.
Jump in and I'll then comment on that, Dietmar.
Right, thanks, Alex. So my perception on this one is, we as men, I think we are creators, and if we stop doing it, we'll lose a very, very positive asset of our masculinity. And if we realize that we are creators and we're stuck in this situation where we think, well, I'm looking for purpose and meaning, but I don't get any idea, well, then sit down, start creating, and you will grow into the answer. But you can only grow into the answer if you start taking action. Now, I want to distinguish this from this very spiritual aspect. There are areas in life which you just can't, you don't have any idea about, and you can't get there without any spiritual guidance. And this could be, Christianity, you could believe in God, or you have somebody who you think is really wise, and you just follow him or her, and you address questions that are hard to formulate because they touch something that you really don't have a very concrete idea about. So I want to integrate these two. I'm not saying, well, if you take action, then you're not able to receive anything. But I just wanted to make clear that you don't have to, be passive, sitting around waiting for something to happen, because then your life's going to happen without you playing the major role in it. So be creative and be open-minded for spirituality. And yes, if you find somebody, go follow him and you'll learn a lot. You might end following him or her after a while, but yes, that's an experience that you can't, you'll otherwise not be able to make.
I'll just add one thing as well, because you spoke earlier about mentors, and then I think when we're going into the spiritual realm, one can talk about something like a spiritual father or something like that, almost, right, or a godfather, one that one can put one's trust in, that can help one to, it's like something like a faith relationship as well, and often it's a love relationship as well, not love in some kind of homosexual way, but love in a I think it's a natural response actually of deep male relationships. But what I want to say is actually, like, when one finds a spiritual guide, if drugs become a part of that relationship, you're on dangerous ground. And I'm just saying this from my concrete experience in the men's movement, is that guys who are doing this kind of stuff, and then there's drugs, psychedelic drugs, or any kind of other substances that are giving these kind of, like, crazy, large, big experiences, it's just such a massive risk of danger, red lights. Like, I'd say, just like that for me is a big, big, big red light. And I'm saying it because it's been relevant, and I've seen suicides, and I've seen, really terrible things happening in people's lives. And so I think mentors, great to have a mentor, someone you have personal distance from, but you're looking to them for guidance in a specific area of expertise. A spiritual guide, that's somebody who actually, I'd even say drugs, but even like a commercial relationship. You want to avoid, like, this is why in Maniphesto Core we've said, like, we're not gonna talk about religion here. We don't want to be talking about, like, I'm not trying to evangelize here and get people Christians. If you're interested in Christianity, go to a church. Don't come here. I'll answer those questions personally, but then I'll say, like, go to local church where you live. And so I think drugs, money, keep those out of spiritual guidance. If you're paying somebody to be your guru, there's just so much danger there. There's so much danger there.
Yeah, I fully subscribe to that.
let's hear what Mr. Dibden has for us.
Yeah, I'm really in agreement with this idea of getting up off your behind and striving to find your purpose, and I think more particularly define your purpose. The moment you just sit and wait for it to fall out of the sky, you're going to wait until you're old and gray and can't do anything. And even in the spiritual side of things, there is this principle of striving, pressing toward the mark, reaching out and stretching yourself to take the prize. So there's no sort of effortlessness to this. It doesn't just fall in your lap. No amount of meditating, reading, we are, and I've noticed that with many men, is that we fill ourselves with all sorts of knowledge. We distract ourselves with this course and that course, that retreat and this retreat, but nothing comes from it. None of those things make you get up and do something with the knowledge you've gained, with the experience you have. And I found that, if you don't work for something, if you don't strive and invest yourself in it, it has no value for you. And I don't think anything comes cheap if you of any real worth. And so, I think in our society, we want to just add water and stir, and there it is. Paul, you mentioned sort of needing that little sort of short-term fix that gives you a little jolt forward. And I think that's good. We need those motivations to keep us focusing on moving forward, but we can't look for that one-stop solution. I think, Dietmar, what you were saying about this takes time, it takes effort, it takes investment in your vision. And I like the fact that I think of it in terms of investment, but you really gave us a really good insight, to sort of a look under the hood at the engine when you spoke about emotional load. And so we can have these very aspirational views of where we want to be and what we want to achieve. But unless we have that investment in it, unless we sort of say, this is worth having, this is worth striving for, I'll pay the costs, I'll make whatever sacrifices I need to make, you're not going to get up and do anything. And I think that's really where we need to be encouraging each other as men, is that, and you also touched on this fact, Dietmar, that we are creators. But we are people who, or as men, we want to be doing something. If there's a problem, we want to fix it. If there's a challenge, we want to meet it. If there's a danger, we want to face it. I think that's the real aspect of our masculine drive. And it's not passive. It's very proactive.
Absolutely. Okay, so guys, unless there's any more comments on that, and Essa, put up your hand if you have a question, then we'll take you on.
To listen. I agree with what you're talking about. I will say something in case I have something to say, but I'm very pleased to listen.
Good.
I'm very pleased to say something.
Well, feel free to break in or anything, but I do want to just talk a little bit about. So one of the things that I've been thinking about is what are appropriate high volume, high frequency, small step, positive experience things that one can do more in one's life to reinforce high level vision, especially when vision is often abstract. A lot of people, we can have like physical goals and stuff like that, but often our visions, it's about like, the kind of family we want to have and the way we want to be communicating with people, and, more abstract personal virtues and characteristics that we want to develop in our personality, right, as well. So it's not easy to understand always how to do that. Some of the things that I've been thinking about is using entertainment and using our pastimes, our hobbies to do this as well, especially the stories that we consume through media, through reading books and stuff like that. So if I create a vision, then can I then find books and movies or even works of art with people who have embodied these characteristics or the same kinds of elements that I'm looking to create in my own life, in my vision as well, and align myself with that. Find role models and different stories that can bring that, and then actually structure that in my life so that I'm consuming these media or bringing in material into my life that's going to be reinforcing this into my life regularly. Yeah. So any further thoughts on that, guys, on doing that? It's something that I haven't really done in a structured way yet, but I think I want to be doing it more.
Yeah, once again, it's the small steps. So, dress like the man you want to be. That's one of the things where you say, well, if I've got an idea who I want to be, who I want to become, and I'm far away from it, every single time that I see myself in the mirror, I want to be reminded that I'm on the way. And then, as you say, find role models or find like sculptures, pictures, something like that, which you surround yourself with, so that you realize in your personal surroundings that there is something happening, that there's change going on. I think that's one of the things that's pretty easy, but it has a massive impact because it's regular. It's always there. You can always be reminded. And then I think it's hard to say, what are the steps that you do yourself on a daily basis, because it really has to do with what have you defined yourself to become. That's a very individual case. But things like, as I said, dress like the man you want to be, surround yourself with things that remind you of this. These things can really help a lot.
Okay. Any final points, guys? Otherwise, I think we're going to draw this conversation to a close.
I think maybe just on those sort of final acts, but Esther, you go first.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Yeah, go for it.
I was actually just, it's maybe more a question, but I mean, I understand fully what you're talking about, but there is still a question which raises up inside me, and it's about finding a purpose. I mean, all this, who do I want to be and how can I reach that? The difficulty, I can understand all these practical steps that I can take, which lead me toward what I can become. But there is some sort of a dilemma, which I guess that I still sort of think about, that the question about who am I? I mean, I'm afraid of choosing a path, going towards something. It's often, maybe it's called a crisis when you don't really know. It's just empty. And I believe that in those situations we need those mentors, but it's very difficult. I don't know how to put words on it, but it's difficult to find the direction when you sort of lack trust. And the lack of trust, maybe I do believe that it's certainly for me, it's the Christian or the spiritual life that I have a God who is above all the men and all my role models. But the trust that it's worth taking a step ahead, that's it's a big question. I've been battling with that, I would say, the last 3 years. And finding the trust that it's worth it, it's something that you have to. I mean, I think that just when I'm listening to you now, I can understand what you talk about, and I can even integrate it into my previous life. But there happen things on the way when you lose the trust that life's worth it, and it's really difficult. You can't survive it alone. But how to work to get the trust that it's worth it? That was just what was going around me when I was listening to it. I think that all this, I love the way, Betz, that you, Dietmar. I fully agree. I love what I was listening to. And
yeah. But thanks, really I mean, thank that you really deepen the conversation here. So I don't know. I'll try say something. I don't know if Dietmar or Alex, you guys want to also start off, or if I should take the ball.
Go ahead, Paul. Take the ball.
Try say something. Yeah, I think you're touching on an absolutely vital problem in our society today, and I think we are moving over into the kind of spiritual religious realm. I've just read a book called Nihilism by a guy called Father Seraphim Rose. It's an incredibly powerful book. It's actually, this guy has been on an incredible path in his life, and he was quite a prophet. He wrote this book, I think, in the 70s, but he saw stuff coming that's really become mainstream in our society today. And the book is called Nihilism. He's also written several other books. But he really sees nihilism as the foundational kind of philosophy of our society. Since Nietzsche, really, Nietzsche brought in this philosophy by proclaiming God is dead and by saying that there is no final truth. I think he says that the formulation is something like, the value of the highest things is falling away, and all the truths are becoming relative. And so there's nothing there. So the things that we before all knew were established and were universal in our society today, now those are gone. And so we're influenced by the culture, whether we like it or not. And as I was reading this book, it really just, it came upon me how just through all of my schooling, all of everything I've been learning through my entire life, it's been fed by this foundational philosophy and understanding of life. And so I think a lot of men, are noticing, like, the ground is cracking underneath our feet, and there's a big abyss underneath there, and everything seems to be relative if we just look around us. And so yeah, there's a need for something larger, that's why I've taken the steps that I've taken. But I think that's where the trust goes. I think that is a problem. It's like, if we just look around us today, it's like we're Denmark. Most people here in Denmark believe we're in a war against Russia right now, fighting for freedom and democracy. But the things that are happening in the name of freedom and democracy don't feel very good. And so there's a large erosion of trust happening, a large erosion of trust.
I think I need to concur with that in the sense that we in our society have lost the knowledge of what is valuable. So we value the wrong things. And because we value the wrong things, they crumble and prove themselves in time to be worthless. And so for us to really find what's valuable, it's really a soul-searching moment. And that which is valuable is definitely not the material. And you can sort of make the comparisons. Someone might invest themselves in their career, but neglect their family. So what's more valuable, being a CEO of a top company, or having a healthy, close-knit, loving family? Many choose the company route, and their families are a train smash. So it's really about finding what's truly valuable, not just valuable to you, but what is universally valuable and unchanged. That value doesn't change. It is always valuable. Even if we were not here, it would be valuable.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same that I would want to say. If there's, once you find something that's really valuable, then there is trust as well. And then you believe that this is the way you have to go. It's very important, though, to really distinguish between the fact it could be mind-driven or it could be driven by your heart. And if there's something that's really, this is where we really connect to this, this realm where we don't really understand what's happening. We can't really explain everything. But once you reach this connection, it's there. You can't explain why, but you feel this is the truth. And once you realize that, you don't ask for, should I do it or not? You just go for it. And then you trust and you believe that this is the way you go.
Yeah, but that's a personal thing. Actually, this was an atheist who said to me, he said something like, knowledge is built on faith. You have to have faith in something to have knowledge. If you have no faith, you have no knowledge. So you have to put your faith into something. You have to say, like, okay, this is where I want to go to. And that's a step. And then that knowledge will be built out on that. But it does get determined by that. And so yeah, I think taking one's time to think about what is it? Yeah. This is hard stuff.
Great question. Really deepened the conversation. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah. Good. Okay, guys, we're just about to hit the hour, so I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dietmar, for coming in and
Thanks, Dietmar.
sharing
Pleasure.
your thoughts and ideas with us. Appreciate it, and we'll be in touch. Yeah, thank you very
See
much.
you
I'll put
soon,
a
guys.
link.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, maybe
Bye.
just like these kinds of conversations, and also just the practical work of working out vision and living it out. Maniphesto Core, go check it out. The link's in the description of this video as well for anybody watching online. Yeah. Okay. All right, that is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.